You are a holistic style practice. You were able to add an extra $10,000 of revenue in a single month.
Why I actually went with you guys, because you're not going to change the way you practice. You're just going to change the amount of people you see. People who come in for sales, they're like, oh, we're just going to get them in. You adjust them. And it's not the way it is. So I started my practice in 2020. I mean, I started it before that, but there was a long story before that. But in 2020, I reopened my practice, I'll put it that way. And obviously we all remember 2020. It was awesome. Let's never go back. And I think it was just a very weird time, but it was a slow grow. And I've always been the kind of practitioner, just referral only. I've never actually done any advertising. And I was taking insurance at the time, so it was a really easy sell for like everybody was like, oh yeah, she takes insurance, it's fine, great. And as we all know, insurance is a nightmare. It was starting to become like the only thing I was thinking about. I was struggling with not worrying about insurance and making sure I was getting paid for the services, but like it was also struggling for my patients, like, right? Like, so I'm not paying attention to them as much as I should because I'm worried about the insurance companies like never paying, which is, you know, it's not all about money, but it is like, I'd like to keep the doors open. So I moved to cash, and cash is harder to sell for patients that I already have established. Like, obviously I call them my diehards, they'll never leave me. That it's even harder for them to like refer to me because they're like, oh, well, she's cash only. And some of the patients, their friends or family are like, yeah, I'm not coming. Cash was definitely a dip. So I was doing, like, it was pretty easy to internal referral with insurance, but then there was a pretty good dip in my patient base when I went into cash. Obviously I knew that was going to happen, not a big deal. And like, I'd still get referrals. It was just a very slow plateau of my patients, and like it would just slowly build onto that. So it wasn't like I wasn't growing, it was just a very slow grow, which is fine. But I eventually was just like, oh, I really have to do some advertising. And of course, like the only advertising I've ever done, I got totally burned on. So I was just like, okay, well, I really don't want to do this because I already had a bad taste in my mouth.
And what happened? Can you elaborate on that?
Oh yeah. So before, when my practice was open in like 2016, I literally only closed for like a couple months because I needed to reopen it. It's a whole story. But yeah, I put a paper advertisement. Basically, it wasn't for paper, but it was like this really bougie town that I worked in, and it was like this magazine that they all get every day or like every week or month or something. And it ended up being this astronomical amount. The guy that I worked with was not a very good person. I'll put it that way. He literally would come to my office and be like, you didn't pay your thing. And I'm like, yeah, I did. Actually, I have all the things. And I wasn't the only one. There was another woman who also advertised in this. This is a nightmare, literally a nightmare situation. This woman called me from the ad being like, oh, I see that you're in this magazine too. She's like, have they been awful to you? And I was like, yes. And she was like, oh my God. He came in, she's a massage therapist, and he came into her business and started yelling at her. And she was just like, what is happening? Why are you yelling at me in my business? And like I just thought it was crazy. So it was a really bad situation.
Wow.
So you live and you learn. That's like an embarrassing story if you really think about it, because I was just like, I should have known better. But I was pretty new as a chiropractor, and I was just like, well, you live and you learn. So yeah, I had like a bad taste in my mouth with advertisement. And I also have always been a chiropractor who's had mentors that are like wicked old school, and you kind of have like that old school thought process of, oh, well, if they're the loudest one out there advertising, they're the worst ones out there. And I'm like, I hate to say that, but it is, and like there is a little bit of truth to that, but also you do have to advertise every once in a while. It's important. So I think advertising had a bad thought process to me. I had a bad vibe with it, and then I think this has made it really easy because I know that social media is a totally different ballgame than paper or fly. You know, it's a different world we live in now, right? It's not like the first starts of chiropractic care. Like, it's totally different. Also, it was hard to find something that didn't seem like, advertising wise, I have no idea how to advertise. I don't know how to make little things on Instagram. I mean, as you all know, I am the worst tech person in the world. It's really bad, but like the company, so your company has made it super easy for me to not have to do that portion of it, but the other side of it, like where it's like the funnel into the office, right? I'm not worried about any of that stuff. They do all of that. It's so much easier. Yeah, go ahead.
Dive a little deeper. What were the struggles that you had right before we started, and like you and your practice and the growth that you felt? I know you felt burnt out. Can you share a little bit on how you really felt coming into this, like maybe the couple months leading up to this? Because I know we had some more difficult conversations right at the beginning.
Yeah. So I think with everything, honestly, this is my 10th year of being a chiropractor. I think it's an easy job when you are actually doing the job, but everything that you have to do to promote yourself is not an easy job. And we weren't ever taught that. We weren't ever taught any of that kind of thing. And I think that's the biggest thing. I feel like I was burnt out. Like I didn't even know where I needed to start with advertising, right? Because again, it was hard to even know. I'm not quite sure how. Like I think we just like it was like a phone call or something about like Palmer, and then like I was like, oh, and then it was really interesting because it was almost like you guys were just there, and I was like, oh, that was weird. I need to manifest more things like that. But it was good. It was like exactly what I wanted because it was ROI based, right? It was based on your return on investment, which I think is huge, especially because it gives both parties accountability. And before I started, it wasn't like I had a lot of goals that I think that I would have reached. It was just going to take so much more longer time. I was just burnt out from just doing the same thing. And I think a lot of times as chiropractors, we get burnt out just by the type of work it is, right? Like it's very methodical. It's very like, we have to deal with a lot of personalities. I'm trying to be nice, but we all know what I mean. Like it's just a lot of bandwidth. So if taking like the constant inflow of patients it's been interesting because it actually pushes you out of your comfort zone. And I think that's what we talked about at the beginning. Like I was like, I don't care, I'm gonna be super uncomfortable for a little bit of time, and then it'll just like everything get more comfortable with being comfortable.
So what made that shift in you to go from like just super nervous about, because I remember you were nervous when we first started, like, yeah, I'm like really uncertain. And you made the choice, but what inspired you to make that decision to start? Because there was like something that flipped in you when you did.
I think I needed, honestly, like we talked about before, part of the whole, like even talking to patients lately, I've noticed when you tell them that there's somebody in their corner, or if you have accountability, I think that was a big thing for me, just having somebody, and you're like, it's just a coaching session. I feel like because I'm a sole practitioner, I'm all alone, I literally do everything. It's very difficult. That's a big part of it. So I think I was also looking for advertising, but I was also looking for a coach just to be like, listen, honestly, just someone having been like, yeah, you got this, we're going to be okay. And I think that was a huge portion of it. And I think because I experienced that, it's easy for me to tell my patients when I'm like doing a program with them, like it's easy for me to be like, listen, I got you. And sometimes just having someone say that to you is huge. Like it definitely changes it. But I think the way that you guys set up your meetings in the beginning, right? Like it was very helpful because it was like a slow process. So you're like, obviously, like you put the time in, you do care. And a lot of times that doesn't feel the way it is. Like most of the time I'm like, all right, sign on the dotted line and that's it. And you're like, great, well, I just sold my soul. No, but it was very much like accountability. I think everybody on their team though too is like, oh man, like we gotta get this done, or like that, you know what I mean? So like if, for example, our scheduling was like all over the place, then we'll bring that up. But like, it wasn't that big of a problem, right? Like we have, as docs, we have fires to put out all the time. So it was like, yeah, the schedule got messed up, but working through that, it gets rectified. It's not like we're how many weeks in and it's still a problem, right? Like it's not a problem. So like things just get rectified, right? So it was, I think the accountability part, or basically knowing that I wasn't completely alone anymore, was a huge portion of it. That kind of sounds sad, but it is so true, especially for the sole practitioners out there. It's hard. It's hard to just be alone all the time and like be like, okay, this is what we're gonna do for the rest of your life. But I think soon I'll be able to hire some more people and that'll be good. Yeah.
I'm pumped about that. Were you skeptical at first, like coming in? Was there any skepticism you had about deciding to make the move? What were you skeptical about?
I was like, is this a good idea? Like, why am I doing this? Do I really want to? Also, you're always concerned about return on investment, right? And yes, you can put a bunch of money into things and they can have zero return on investment, right? So when I started and we set up things, it was just going a little bit slower in the beginning because you have to go a little slower just so you can get people in. It wasn't even that slow, it was like a week or two. It was just whatever. But after like people come in and you start to realize like, listen, both of us are gonna win if I do the work, right? Like you guys are doing the work, so I need to match that. And that's how you can get the return on investment. So like you guys don't really get the amount of money you want unless we get the amount of money that we make. So it's I think it's a win-win. It's not like you're just pouring out money and then like nothing's coming in. In the beginning, it was a little hard because that was more me. Because selling, as everybody knows, is not, as chiros, I think we are by nature givers, right? So we just are like, I honestly would be like, oh, if we could just, everybody gets adjusted for free, it'd be great. But that's not real life. So we have a hard time selling. But then I realized through our conversations and stuff, it's like, well, what are you selling? I think at one point I was like, if I could have the perfect practice, I would have them do this and this. And you're like, okay, then do it. I was just like, oh yeah, it is my practice. But it was just interesting because you are selling them something that you already sell to people. You're just making it easier for yourself to have it all at once, and you can just focus on them. It's kind of sounds like, because I was never a person to do programs or anything like that, but it just makes it so much easier. So for my program, it makes the person get better faster, and it makes it easier for me just to set it and forget it kind of situation with payment wise. And I think we always get stuck on having them come in and oh, I don't want it to be too much money. But if it's already done, if the payment's out of the way, it's a set it and forget it kind of thing with people. And they're happy because they don't have to worry about it anymore. I haven't had anybody have any kind of issue with it, payment wise or program wise or literally anything. And I think that's just you start to find your people anyway, like you always do, depending on how much of practice you've been, that's going to happen. But yeah, I think I was never a program person, and I feel like it has made my life easier in a lot of ways. But I still have my other patient base that I'm slowly going to add on to it, but that's a whole other, that's down the road.
The next step.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's the next stop on the train.
We kind of went through the struggles. We kind of went through your expectations, the fear. Now looking back, how'd you feel after week 1, week 2, week 3? What was the progression and the experience that you felt as we walked alongside you in this?
So I feel like I have gotten much more comfortable with and I keep bringing up the selling thing because that is the most uncomfortable thing. I could literally talk to anybody. That's not my problem. I'm not shy. I could talk to a stump for a while if you really wanted to. It's just the selling thing. And I think having the confidence, honestly, in myself to be able to sell that part of my office, part of my work to people. And I think it was funny because, we actually went up in a price thing, and I was super uncomfortable with it, but I'm they're going to buy it or they're not going to buy it. It is not the biggest, it's not, I don't know how to explain that. It's not a big deal because they're going to get it or they're not going to get it. And either you could work with this patient and have them come in one time, do all of this stuff, get your fee for your adjustment and fee for the exam, and then work another time and another time with them. They don't get better because they don't want to come back, right? And they're oh, I feel better now, but then they never come back because they're out of pain and they just don't come back. Whereas if you can set it up in a program and sell a program to somebody, they will, or a protocol or whatnot, you can actually set that up for them and explain the reasons why you're doing it that way. I was not a care plan person, but I feel it's made it a little bit easier. I would just let people work on their wellness as they go. Yeah.
You're rocking it now.
Yeah.
You're rocking it now. It's awesome to see the growth that you've had.
Yeah, I honestly think that the biggest part about chiropractors is we have a hard time selling things. I know that's the biggest obstacle for me, at least. I don't know, maybe some people are nervous about talking to new patients.
People look at it as being bad.
Yeah, and I think that's the stigma I had, that it was bad. And that I was kind of being shysty, right? I was oh, I'm gonna try to get one over on them, but really I'm who am I getting one over? They're gonna feel better after this. I'm going to be working and they're going to be getting better. I think part of it was you already help people, you know what I mean? Chiro's already help people. I just think they have to be more, I don't even know what the word is, more confident. I mean, it's not an easy, you have the whole medical community telling you you're the redhead stepchild, right? You have people being oh, they're just quacks. So it's kind of we already go into this, every, in the history of chiropractic, right? There's people going to jail for it. So we always have this back burner feeling of we're not good enough, but we all know that it helps people. We all know that there's crazy stuff that happens in our practices all the time. If you can get more people in and share that with them, I think it's huge. I think it's big. And I think I started looking at new patients a little differently. There's definitely been a shift. Before I was oh, I got a new patient, you kind of have to do all the paperwork and all that stuff. We still do, let's be honest, but it's okay because the more you see, I think you'll realize you kind of find the people that are going to be more drawn to you anyway. So you have this basically a floodgate of new patients. The people who are going to want to see you and want to stay, they stay. I just had a patient just yesterday. Yeah, she was funny. She was just like, I don't know why, I just love coming here. And I was like, okay, cool. I was like, I need some of your positive energy today. She's like, my last patient of the day. She's like, no, it's great. I love it. I'm so excited about this today. I was like, okay. I was like, oh, I love you. You're so fun. But
awesome.
you'll find your people. And you probably, I think practitioners already have that little like cohort of people. But if you're able to have an influx of new patients come in, you'll be able to help obviously more people, but like you're gonna find an even bigger tribe. And I think that's what a lot of chiros would wish, right? Like you get to have your perfect practice of like finding the people that are gonna be good for you and you good for them, because that always happens in the long run.
I love that. So I wanted to run through some numbers real quick. So looking at your averages for earlier this year compared to since we started. So January through April, right? I went and just averaged out all the numbers. It's an average of $9,900 a month, a little under that, a little under $9,900 a month. You're bringing it. May, we hit a little over 20K, $20,500. So with that, like, were you natural at sales? Because I want to like address this for people that like people aren't going to know, like, how was sales? What did you look at sales as being? And like, you
so
were not
uncomfortable.
Yeah, can you share your experience, like starting with like, were you natural at it or not? And then...
No, I'm awful at sales. I'm terrible at sales. But now I'm kind of like, how do I explain this? I was awful at sales, and I kind of had to change my way of thinking of just being like, there's a couple things, like, right? Like, you're gonna be uncomfortable, so get used to it. Then, which we're like, as chiropractors, we're really not uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. We have people come in and they're like a hot mess, and most people would just like run to the hills, be like, I'm not touching that person, right? So I kind of got that mindset. You know, when you get out of school, you're always a little nervous with those first patients and like new, like hard, complex cases, and then they just kind of become like run-of-the-mill cases. You don't get as like anxious about these people that come in and they have all these different problems. You're just like, yeah, we're just going to adjust you, things are going to get better. And if they're not, then we'll further investigate, right? But you just get used to just manning questions that are really difficult as you get more into practice. You get used to all the uncomfortableness. So I just kind of applied that mindset to sales, which was not easy at first. But I think just being able to like man the questions that people give me, and I'm all about like, as you know, scripts. I like having scripts and like kind of building off of those, right? So like the company, like ChiroJump, does a great job of like kind of giving you a baseline, and then you can add into that, or you can like take away from that, mostly adding in or like kind of modifying it to sound more like you. But yeah, I think that helped a ton. I think that when I got nervous about something, or someone was like, oh, well, I can't, I'm like, all right, I'm going to need a new script for this. Like, I need to like write this out, because, you know, you have like the people that are, I mean, we talked about it, right? I was like, oh, people are kept talking like, oh, I got to talk to my husband about it. And I'm like, okay, well, talk to them. And then, but having something to say to that, and I still have a little bit of a hard time, but I'm getting much better at closing them. And it's not like a hard close. It's not like these car salesmen. You're just giving them like what they already want. It's just that they need to find a way to finance it most of the time. And sometimes you just, like, I've never had someone be like, nah, sounds terrible. I don't want anything to do with this. That'd be kind of interesting if they did say that. But like, yeah, no, I think it's just getting comfortable with the questions that people throw at you, and kind of applying what we already know and what we already do as chiropractors. Because we already man those hard questions, right? Like, we can talk about someone's arthritis and scoliosis and all the things and the itises and stuff, but we can't man a question like, oh, well, I don't know if I can financially afford this. And then you just shut down and nothing comes after that. Yeah, that's not good. So learning how to man those questions, I think, was the biggest thing. And you'll kind of get used to that. And like, if things go awry, then you just learn how to fix it the next time. So it's just like taking that whole premise of like, you already are used to uncomfortable situations and applying it to sales, and knowing that you're actually selling a product that's going to help people. So there's that.
What do you feel like you did differently that has allowed you to become really solid at sales? Like, you can always get better, but you have become very solid at what you do, and like portraying that, conveying that, and speaking to people about it. What do you think you did differently that has allowed you to do that versus how other people might take up any kind of sales training?
I think I specifically made a point to have it in like intake, adjustment, sales portion. I think a lot of times we don't take that time or not time so much as like a segment of your exam to just sales. Like you're not going to be adjusting someone and then trying to sell them a package at the same time. That's not really good. But excuse me, making sure you have that time like carved out, even if it's like, you know, it only takes like 5 minutes or so, but having the time like scheduled out in this thing, because I would just be like at the end of the adjustment, just like, okay, we'll figure this out, and like I'll see you next week, blah blah blah. But having that like, and honestly, I think a script is the biggest part that helps me, because I'm all about like having something prepared, having something said, like I can say.
What about the one-on-one training? Because I know we spent a few weeks in a row. We had like, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks in a row. We just sat down for an hour and we're like, let's go through line by line, make sure you with every piece. Can you share a little bit about that experience?
I think again, like the script that you gave me was really impactful for people, and it was like, it's written because you guys focus in sales, right? Like this, you sell sales. That's kind of weird, but you do. But so I think when we had our trainings, I'd be like, I have no idea what does this even mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm always I'm a question asker, you know? So I was like, I don't know what this means. Was there an easier way to put this? Like just in the, what do you call that? The script itself. And we went over that really like pretty in depth, and you're like, well, you could probably say this, this, and this. Like it's just a recap. And I'm like, oh, so when I hear it in a different way and it might not be my wording, but you explaining it to me was much easier for me to understand. We just went through and kind of made it my own, and I think that's when it clicked in my head. Or just knowing the baseline of it was way easier to understand. I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing that I've noticed, and I'll just share a little bit here, is you've been super intentional about it. You've not been shying away from like, yeah, I'll get to that when I get to. You've been like, no, I need help with this thing. Can we have a time? Can we make it work? Can I get extra time with you so that we can actually walk through this and I can get better? When you start off chiropractic school, you're not like, well, I'm not going to put in the time and effort. I got this figured out. Like, you're like, no, I'm going to study. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to make sure I understand it truly so that I can take this on. And I think chiros forget that there's 2 aspects of things. You have your business and then you have the chiro. And sales is a piece of that business. And if we don't do really well there, we can't have the impact we want to make.
Yeah.
And you've taken a hold of that and been like, no, I'm going to get really good at the sales portion so that I can make this impact, so that I can make this life-changing or practice-changing revenue that I want to make and hit these goals that I want to hit. So I want to give you a lot of like props for that, because not everyone takes hold of that. Not everyone is like, okay, I acknowledge that I'm not great at this thing and I need to get better. Let me take a step there. You know, people get lost on not acknowledging that or not taking that step.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
But I think it would be easy for other chiropractors to do, to be honest. Like as long as they took what they're already done in chiropractic school, like you made it all the way through chiropractic school. Like it wasn't an easy feat. As much as people would like to downplay it, it wasn't easy. And obviously we're goal-driven people, probably a little OCD, so that's okay. It's actually a good thing in this case, but just really goal-driven. And I think that I feel like if you have a goal in your brain and you want to achieve it, I do think you can probably, like I needed to be a vendor in sales. Like that was the way that I'm going to get to the next level in my practice. I'm still working on it, right? Like I'm still trying to get to the next level in my practice, but it's either like I've known it for a while, like if there's going to be a problem to solve, it's going to be me solving the problem. And normally I usually am the problem, so that would be the problem there. But solving that problem and knowing if I can fix the sales portion of it, I can I figured out every other aspect of it. Like why not be able to figure out the sales, right? Like it's just another piece of the chiropractic puzzle, right? Like if you're comfortable with sales, you're not going to get to a certain point, right? Like you're just going to be like, and it's very easy for us, I think so, as like a sole practitioner, have people kind of like manipulate their way into like us as givers being like, oh, well, you know, like I just can't do that. And I'm like, and they're like, oh, okay. And then you end up having that whole patient base be like that. And that's just not good. You need to be able to not have that patient base where you run the practice rather than the practice, okay, some people call them practice members, patients run the practice. I think that's important. I think it's like getting past that is huge. But sales, I think, is just another obstacle to overcome. And yeah, maybe you might not be good at it. I never was, but I feel like I just got used to it. Because I think going in, that was my major thing. I had a goal in mind that I wanted to grow my practice. I'm still growing my practice, but I want like another doctor. I want front desk staff, right? but I have this vision of my practice and what it could be. I just need to get there, and I need to make sure that I know how to do every single job that I want other people around me to be able to do, because I'm not going to have a great practice if I can't do it, right? Like I'm not going to be able to teach them either. So if I can't sell, I can't rely on someone to sell my practice for me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I need to be able to do it well. I think it's just being uncomfortable or comfortable with the uncomfortable. I think that's what we said in the beginning. It's like, you're really pushing me out of my comfort zone, but I'll do it. If you say it'll work, okay.
I love it. Yeah, you've taken it and like, you've taken a hold of it and done it. And like, you've been the one doing the stuff. Like you've made it happen. Things don't work without you implementing them. And I think that's the biggest thing. You do it. Yeah, you have to. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not like you're going to have this company come in and they're going to do all this thing for you if you can't do the work. But I think that's part of it too. Like you realize like you have these people walking through the door and you're like, okay, well, they're here for a reason. Just give them what they want. And if they don't want what you have to sell, then they're not going to take it. Like it's fine. Like I think that was a big thing for me in the beginning, is getting used to people being like, yeah, I can't. I'm like, okay. So it kind of is a little hard to take that rejection, but then you're like, it doesn't happen often, but like you kind of learn that's part of it, right? Like, cause you're seeing way more people than most, like the average. You were at how many? You were at 3 patients a month before we started. Yeah. And then we started, and I think last month we had
3 patients next Monday. So that's just one day.
3 patients in a day. There we go. We had like 2 to 3 people coming in every day. And I want to ask a quick question.
If you have practitioners signing up and they have staff and other doctors, like this is a cakewalk. Don't worry about it. The cakewalk. Like to me, I have to do everything, but I can do it. So it was funny that if you have staff, you're going to be fine. Just keep going. You got this.
If you can do it and make this stuff happen, do you feel like anyone can do it?
Yeah, but I feel like that all the time. Like I feel like if I can go to chiropractic school, anybody can go to chiropractic school. But it's true. They've already gone to chiropractic school. You've done so much so far in your life, like most of the practitioners you work with, right? That why can't you do this? That's the real question, right? Like that's the question I ask myself. I'm like, obviously you can do this. It's uncomfortable, but you're gonna do it. Just get it done, learn how to do it, get good at it. That's another thing in your practice that's like a solid thing that you already have, right? So another thing that I think is important to say is like a lot of companies that do practice management, I don't know if it's like practice management that we'd call it, like advertisement and like a little bit of coaching, right?
Like growth. Yeah, growth. I'd say we guarantee growth. So that's essentially.
So the guaranteed growth thing, right? Like I feel like a lot of times people look at those companies and all they're going to expect their practice to turn into is like a conveyor belt kind of practice. I worked in those kind of practices and I told myself that I'm never going to be that person, right? I'm not that person. I take time with my patients. And I think this is a big point to why I actually went with you guys, because you're like, you're not going to change the way you practice. You're just going to change the amount of people. I have changed a little bit about the way I practice, but that's the sales part of it. But like the actual adjustments and the taking care of people hasn't changed. And I think that was another, I think to your point before of like, why was that a big selling point? I think that was a big selling point, because I think a lot of times practice, like people who come in for sales, they're like, oh, we're just going to get them in, you adjust them. And it's not the way it is. Like, I think that was a big thing that you guys had said at the beginning. It was a big selling point. Knowing I needed to grow, but also having someone who's like willing to be like, no, you need to cut your time in half. You need to do this, you need to do that. That are almost like I don't know how to say this. Like it's like a moral thing. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. That's not the word. Yeah, ethical. That's not how I ethically feel like I need to train patients. So there wasn't any changing of that, like the soul of my practice, right? That wasn't changing. Just the amount of people I could take care of was changing, which was good. And I think that's a big selling point for a lot of practitioners like me, because I think it's like the first one that I've actually ever come across that didn't want to change like everything about the practice or the way that we work. Do you know what I mean by that? Does that make sense? I think that's a huge selling point that I don't know if you guys even know if that's a thing.
I appreciate you sharing that, seriously. And like, I just have one last question, and then I'll let you get out of here. I appreciate the heck out of you for like sitting with me for this time.
It's all good.
You are a holistic style practice, and still in 8 weeks, you were able to add an extra $10,000 of revenue in a single month. Yeah. And so what does that look like? Because a lot of people will hear this and think that it is a conveyor belt, that we're like, hey, we have to change everything, make things super fast. Like, what has your experience been? And like, can you just share like a quick piece on the fact that you are a holistic wellness style practice? About
Yeah.
how long you spend with patients and how you still hit the extra 10K a month.
So I'm gonna get yelled at for how much I spend with patients because it's quite a bit of time. So realistically, my patient is on the table for about 15, maybe 20 minutes. They need it. But most of the time it's like 15 minutes, which is a good amount of time. Most chiros are like 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes and you're fine, or less than 5 minutes. I don't know. I worked for a company that said like 1 minute and I was like, that's insane. I'm not doing that. Ethically, I can't. But I haven't really changed the way I physically practice. Like I haven't changed any ways how I actually help people and do the treatments. I'm adding more to their treatment because now I don't have to, because again, like I said, if you have staff and another doctor on hand, you'll be walking in the breeze, it's fine. I do everything myself, so I usually have to stop and do the paperwork, and like then I have to like bring them up. But because of the package thing, like in them all day at once, that part's already behind me. So that's the only thing that I'm actually cutting down on time. And it's not because I'm cutting down on their treatment time, it's cutting down on just like process time. But that's the only thing that's changed for time-wise, but everything else, yeah, everything else is the same. There's nothing that and I see it on my other patients too, so, but they've definitely, it would be nicer to have all the patients, like the new patients come in and just have the other process, which again, we've been talking about working on. There's definitely the way we set it up is more, I'm still doing all the work that I need to do for them. It's just, I have less, what do you call it? Like clerical things I have to get done.
Like
so
admin work.
Yeah, admin done,
Yeah.
admin stuff.
Let's go.
So I do need an admin,
Let's go.
but that's a different problem. Yeah, I think so. I think honestly, it's nothing really has changed except for the amount of people I see.
Yeah.
Like it's a very large influx of people. I think leaning into the fact that you're not changing everything about their practice is huge, honestly. I think that was one of the biggest, and I don't really think I've thought about it in the beginning, but like when you're asking like why I changed my mind about like advertising and stuff, I think one thing I was ready to do it. The other thing is having somebody in your corner. I think leaning into that was a huge thing.
Yeah.
And like just for when you're talking to someone, because I feel like sometimes and not to be like a Debbie Downer, but I feel like we're like very alone as chiropractors. Like we don't really have a big community. Maybe some do, but I don't have a big community. I mean, I have like one friend who's a chiropractor, but I feel like that's the difference, right? Like when you're doing it on your own, or like you're in the trenches and you're seeing a ton of people, like and you're working and you do it the way I do it, you're not going to be out and about like being, hey, you know, that kind of thing. It's not the same kind of practice, right? Like we're talking about like the hole in the wall practice that like sees a bunch of people, does a really good job, but nobody knows about you. Yeah. But I think you should lean into that because I think not changing my practice totally
has been amazing. Changing the things that are needle movers, but not the things about how you care for people, I think is the biggest thing.
And I think the only things that have changed for me, this is a good point too, is that you guys have kind of given me, because I've gotten better at sales, and I'm like, well, if I can get better at that, I can get better at this. Like, you got this. It's fine. We're going to do good.
Thank you so much. I will talk to you later. Have a good one.
Bye.